Hi, I'm Jason Inman.
And I'm Ashley Victoria Robinson.
And we're here to give you a recap and review of The Flash, Season 3, Episode 13, Attack on Gorilla City. And if you haven't seen tonight's episode, you might want to come back later because there's going to be lots of spoilers. The episode begins where we see Earth 2 Harrison Wells running through the woods being chased by a giant gorilla. Jesse then explains on Earth 1 that HR got a message from Gorilla City and he went there because he was intrigued by a mathematical equation. Barry remembers the headline that says City still recovering from a gorilla attack and is wondering if Gorilla Grodd is coming back to this Earth. He tells Jesse that she has to stay behind and maybe she can protect this Earth and teach Wally a thing or two. And Jesse isn't really that excited by Wally having powers. There then is a great scene between Julian and Barry learning about the opposite universe, and Julian obviously saying, "Are you going to the Planet of the Apes? Are you going to the Planet of the Apes?" And which is a funny joke because he was in that movie. Okay. So let's talk about some of the stuff that was set up in the beginning of this episode. We, of course, get a little bit of an intriguing scene, probably one of Julian's better scenes, where he's very intrigued by the idea of Earth 2. Now, let me ask you this idea. Did you like that scene? Also, too, if somebody came to you and was like, hey, there's an Earth 2 out there, and we're going to help our friend from a city of gorillas, what would be your reaction?
I like that scene. I think the Planet of the Apes joke is funny. I forgot.
Especially since he was in Rise of the Planet of the
I
Apes.
forgot that Tom Felton was in Rise of the Planet of the Apes because I don't think he's super great in that. But it's a cute callback joke. I think as a scientist, it really makes sense that he would be the most excited by the chance to go to a parallel Earth. I don't know if I would want to go to a parallel Earth in the event that I'd probably die.
Got it.
That would be low down on my priority list as a non-metahuman.
What did you think about Jesse's reaction to Wally and not really caring about Wally having speed powers at all?
I thought it was kind of weird. I definitely thought it was an unearned reaction.
Yes.
She explained that she hasn't heard from Wally.
Which we'll get to in a little bit.
Right. And so they sort of retcon justified why she's acting the way she does, but it just makes her seem standoffish.
Got it.
At the beginning, so I have mixed feelings about it.
We then cut to a scene where Julian shows up dressed like Indiana Jones. He's ready to go to Earth 2 because he's like, I can't give up the chance to go to another dimension. They then go to Earth 2 and they arrive in the Vancouver woods, which are actually supposed to be nearby Gorilla City, and they see Gorilla City in the distance. Wally, back on Earth 1, notices that Jesse has been acting super weird, and he says, well, maybe it's because her dad is still missing and kidnapping gorillas. They find out about a robbery in the middle of Central City. They go there. Kid Flash stops the robbery all by himself, and he basks in the applause. And it kind of brings up the question here, is Kid Flash getting too big for his britches? Now, we had a scene in a previous episode where Kid Flash took a selfie with some cheerleaders. We had another scene, of course, where Kid Flash got cheered on by another crowd. Do we think that Wally is becoming a spotlight hog by being Kid Flash? Is he becoming, let's say, I don't know what's the right term, arrogant?
I think they're trying to make him that.
Okay.
I don't like it very much.
Okay. Wally West in the comic books, though, is kind of arrogant. I will point that out, though.
Yeah, but we've gone out of our way to be like, this is not the white, red-headed Wally West that you know from the comic books. To me, it feels very forced because, we have to teach him a lesson because he's Kid Flash and not the Flash.
Yep.
Burp, 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 and Barry was better than him, and, Barry's not better than Wally at all in any way possible. So I think the storyline feels very forced. Again, I think it's forced to make tension between him and Jesse, which I don't love because I like them together. I think what's more silly and more arrogant is that Barry thinks that he's the only speedster who needs to go fight a bunch of giant gorillas. I know that you can't afford to have the three of them running around.
Plus the gorillas.
But you should really take all your superpowered people to go fight superpowered giant apes that are probably smarter than you?
Yes.
And Barry's like, don't worry, guys. I got it. I'll take the freezy chick who doesn't like being a superhero and the vibe guy who left his sunglasses at home. No.
Well,
I also think it's funny they have to go out of the way to be like, boy, Africa on Earth 3 sure is different. Oh boy, global warming doesn't exist here.
Doesn't look like it doesn't look like cold Vancouver at all. They find Harry's watch in the woods and then they're suddenly captured by Gorilla Grodd. Grodd. And then we see the awesome Gorilla City, and we cut inside to cells that look conspicuously like the Dr. Alchemy set from earlier in the season. And Cisco and Flash find out that their powers aren't working. We then see Harry Wells from Earth 2 show up. He's controlled by Gorilla Grodd, and Grodd reveals to the Flash that he needs his help, and he finds out that he's like, I've had to serve under Solovar, and he wants the Flash to kill Solovar, and so that way Gorilla Grodd can keep the gorillas on Gorilla City and not on Earth 1. All right, flat out, I want to stop because I want to be like, Tom Cavanaugh in this is doing a Gorilla Grodd impression. Do we like Tom Cavanaugh's gorilla voice? I thought it was a little silly.
I don't like the entire conceit of that. I understand you're doing it because the gorillas are expensive.
Yep.
I get it. I thought it was silly. I thought it was contrived, and I thought it was probably a way to be like, look, Tom Cavanaugh, you can play something else beside the sad sack guy.
It's not really that silly, though, because that type of scene happens in the Flash comic books all the time.
But they really use it a lot.
They do. Again, I think this isn't, we are experiencing an episode that is pushing the budgetary boundaries of the Flash. And we cannot have the gorillas be in all these scenes because they are so expensive.
You're not wrong, but there's a difference between being able to intellectualize that and then did I like it? Not really.
Yeah. I don't mind that Gorilla Grodd was speaking for Tom Cavanaugh.
Yeah.
I do not mind that at all. I understand that. Gorilla Grodd does that in the comic books all the time. Fine with it. I think that Tom Cavanaugh should have just talked like Tom Cavanaugh.
Oh, you don't like the pseudo Batman voice he's doing?
I was saying I didn't like his Gorilla Grodd impression. Yeah. That was where it pushed past the point. The fact that Gorilla Grodd was taking control of Harrison Wells, I was fine with.
So many Wells.
So many Wells in this damn show. Then we get a scene where we find out that Jesse's a little mad at Wally because Wally hasn't been writing Jesse intergalactic and multiversal letters. Okay, so she's not that excited that he has speed, and she brings up this thing that she's like, oh, you got your speed, and you seem just so comfortable with it. I'm not that comfortable with my speed. Plus, you didn't write me letters. I was thinking about moving to Earth 1, but it didn't seem like you wanted me. This was the scene for me that, one, I'm kind of like, oh, this is really painting Wally West in a bad light because he just decided not to send her letters. By the way, I really want to know how they communicate. How do you communicate across the multiverse?
Cisco opens a portal and you throw a letter through.
You throw a paper airplane through. Yeah. And multiversal snail mail.
Or you hold on to him and you text.
Oh. Solovar then appears and smacks Gorilla Grodd to the ground to interrogate the humans, and Flash makes him a deal, a one-on-one fight in the arena. If he beats him, they have to leave all of them alone. Then we see a whole bunch of gorillas acting out the movie Gladiator, and it's the best-worst video game ever, according to Cisco. Solovar kicks Barry's butt pretty good, but then Flash pulls a reverse Flash vibration trick and beats him, and then refuses to kill Solovar. All right, so, one, let's talk about this. I think we now see where all the budget went to. It went to this shot. One, I thought the shot looked pretty damn amazing.
I also think Solovar looked awesome.
Solovar looked cool. Keith David from Gargoyles voicing Solovar, which is pretty cool. But two, let's talk about this. We are in the 3rd season of The Flash, and we saw a shot like this.
It's cuckoo bananas.
If you would have told me in season 1 that we were going to see this shot, I would have told you crazy. I would have been like, we will never see Gorilla City on this show.
Yeah.
We saw Gorilla City. We saw a pretty awesome fight. Although I thought that Barry, I still think Barry could have taken him pretty easily.
It was a little weird.
Well, I didn't understand why, so they were like, Barry, throw the lightning, and Barry starts doing spinnies.
He doesn't throw the lightning.
And then he doesn't throw the lightning. He just keeps going in circles until Solovar is able to beat him with a dust shockwave.
Yeah.
And then that's how he's able to beat him. But I do like that they're being like, oh, we can use the reverse Flash vibrating punch, except we don't kill him, and that works. What did you think about the whole Gorilla Sequence, Gorilla Gladiators, I'm going to call it?
I think you can really see the restriction of the budget here.
Yeah.
It's a really slow fight. It's really paced down, and it kind of only has 3 moves, and they're moves that we've seen from Flash before. I think they're probably presets or things that they can really easily animate because there's just a lot going on. I think if you had paced it up a little bit, it would have seemed a little bit more exciting, but the fact that it's happening at all is so incredible that I can get over that it's kind of a convenient way to win the fight.
Sure. And then we learn that the gorillas are all about tricks because Grodd was the one that wanted to attack Earth 1. And he says that Father Reverse Flash taught him well, but they need Cisco to open the breach. Harry Wells wakes up and gets to talk to the team for the first time, and Cisco considers that they should kill him to stop the gorillas from going across the breach because he's the only way that they can get through. Then they think Caitlin should do it because maybe Grodd doesn't know about her powers, but also Julian thinks that will turn her into a Killer Frost permanently, but they're all like, one of us has to die. Okay, let's talk about the logic of this. We talk about several times where the super scientists on this show are sometimes super dumb.
This is one of those cases.
Yeah, where do they get... I understand why they're talking about this, but they're just like, oh, kill me. No, they get into an argument like, no, I'm the one that should die. No, I'm the one that should die. No, I'm the one that should die. Oh, and Caitlin has to do it. And Caitlin's like, I don't want to kill any of you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to kill any of you. But they're like, no, Caitlin, I need you to kill me.
You know what would be better? Use Caitlin to freeze Grodd.
If they don't know about the powers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or freeze the cell so they could break it and escape.
Yeah. There's 120 better things they could have done. Also, if the gorillas want Cisco to open a breach, why don't they just mind control him and make him do it?
Exactly, right? Yeah, which we do see Grodd take control of Cisco.
We do.
Yeah.
You could do it.
Yeah.
It's a problematic scene.
It is. Then we see the Flash play dead, and they trick Gorilla Grodd and then throws his cold body away. Then Barry heats up, and he runs them out of the city, and they just leap into a breach blindly because they don't have Cisco's glasses. So this was their plan. This was the solution they came up with. Let's do the old, we're going to pretend we're dead. Too bad we don't have the can of ketchup on our chest to be like, oh, we're dead. Pull them out of the thing. And then they escape. This to me... This was the point of the episode where I was like, oh, this kind of ruined what I was kind of enjoying up until this point. Because I thought that this plan was very dumb.
Also, why do Barry's powers work outside the cell but not inside the cell when it's just a metal cell not made out of anything special? Like, he couldn't vibrate fast enough to get out of the cell, but once he's out of the cell, he can vibrate fast enough to not freeze to death.
That is a fair point, because they did make a mention that they said that they thought it was the gorilla's telepathic powers stopping their powers. So what difference does it make where he is?
Also, Grodd's walked out of the room many times. Why didn't Barry check to see if his powers worked when Grodd walked out of the room before?
And I know that someone in the comments will be like, but the gorillas thought he was dead. I call complete BS on that.
Also, if they're telepathic, they should be able to tell.
They should be able to tell that he's not dead. And you have to throw comic book logic into this. And this is the second week in a row we've had to throw comic book logic into the Flash to make something work. You have to be like, okay, that somehow Caitlin's powers froze him to make him feel cold on the outside. Then Barry, with his super speed, was able to super slow down his heartbeat to where Gorilla Grodd would think he was dead. So if Gorilla Grodd telepathically scanned him, thought he was dead,
but his brain would still be alive.
Pulled him out of the... You have to...
I know.
He can somehow super slow down his brain electrons. Pulled him out of the cage. And so because of that, he wasn't telepathically stopping him. That's the only explanation of it. It's a very weak explanation.
It is, and it requires a lot more thinking than I really want to do for a TV show.
Yeah, for a TV show that's about giant talking gorillas.
Yeah, and then I think, like, leaving the sunglasses in Earth 1 was so convenient, but I do like the move where it's like...
No, the gorillas took him from him.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
But it is nice that they have to, like, literally take the leap of faith in order to get home. I thought that was a nice moment for the team.
Exactly. And then they come back to Earth 1, and the two Wells finally talk. It's funny that they actually forgot about each other. And then Harry Wells sleeps in the most brightly well-lit room in the middle of Star Labs. So I want to bring this up because you talked about it really quickly last week. How did your Wells off go? How was that?
It was not as long as I was hoping for.
I think we'll get another one next episode.
I love it because I'm a big Tom Cavanaugh fan, but I need Harry to be a little grumpier the next time around.
Okay.
I forgot to say this earlier, but I did really like the scene where Jessie mistook HR for being her dad.
Oh,
and I would love to see if she stays on Earth 1 and then Harry goes back, if her and HR like have this weird bond. I thought that was really
weird
sweet.
uncle-daughter relationship?
Yeah. Like pseudo-paternal, but not quite.
Then Wally and Jessie kiss because she wants to move to Earth 1, and then HR is like, invite me to the wedding, and then finally the episode ends after a Barry and Iris scene that's just like all the rest. And then finally, after the end credits, we see Gorilla Grodd talking to Gypsy with his giant gorilla army, and he's like, Gypsy, you're gonna take us to Earth so we can invade my home planet from the multiverse. Okay. Jessie and Wally getting together.
Finally! so good.
Come on. Kissy, kissy, kissy. I think this might mean Jesse is here for the rest of the season. I hope so.
I think so.
All right, let's talk about the big twist, Gypsy. Why is Gypsy there?
Because we need some way to vibe the gorillas over to Earth 1.
It's very true, but I know that. But beyond the reason for writing the script.
So my assumption is that when she left their Earth, she vibed to the wrong place.
Okay.
Or as punishment, because we know that she didn't do what she was supposed to do.
But she lied and covered.
Maybe she didn't lie that well. So maybe as punishment, she was banished to Gorilla City.
Interesting.
Or to that Earth.
Interesting. I don't know. I have a couple things that I might bring up in predictions for the next week episode.
But it's very convenient.
So it is very convenient, but a cool little twist.
Yeah, I like her.
All right, cool. All right, now we're going to talk about the rating of this week's Flash episode between 1 to 5 lightning bolts, 5 being the best, 1 being the worst. Ashley, what would you give Attack on Gorilla City?
I actually think Attack on Gorilla City is a pretty weak episode.
Yes.
I think it suffers from really lazy writing because they knew that they had to do this, and this to set up what I think is going to be a bigger, better episode next week.
Yeah.
It was really cool to see some of that stuff, but for me, it wasn't enough to salvage the rest of the episode, even when my 2 favorite characters kissed. So I'm going to give it 2 lightning bolts.
Interesting. I agree with you. I do think part 2 is going to be better than part 1. I really do.
They tend to be.
I think just the fact of the gorillas being in Earth 1, I think is going to save them a little bit of budget. I think they're going to be able to do a little bit more because they won't have to create these entire CGI environments.
Yes.
I'm going to give it a 3 because I'm still just surprised by the fact that we're seeing Gorilla City, and I'm going to give the city that extra little point because I do agree I thought it was a weak Flash episode just in terms of logic and how the characters acted. There was a lot of stuff in this that didn't work.
It was also very convenient.
Yeah, very convenient. But I'm going to give them an extra point simply for the fact of the audaciousness of them trying Gorilla City.
So a point for audacity.
There you go. All right, let's move into predictions for what we think is going to happen in the next episode or in the future of The Flash. Ashley, you predicted previously a Wells off. We saw sort of a Wells off.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Sort of a Wells off.
What do you think is going forward? What's going to happen?
My prediction actually might be for next season. But I was thinking as we were watching this,
Season 4.
Yes.
Okay. Wow.
We know it's coming.
We know it's coming. You're just jumping forward. It's
I was like, man, there's they made a lot of gorillas.
They did.
And there's quite a few distinct gorillas. They didn't just carbon copy Grodd over and over and over again. And I was like, you know who else is a really silly DC comic villain who's a gorilla?
Who?
Monsieur Mala and the Brain.
Oh, really?
So I think because we have these gorilla skins laying around,
okay.
I think we're going to see that those 2 characters team up and appear on The Flash.
Interesting.
I do. I think that's something we're going to get.
Interesting. Okay.
What do you think is coming up?
My prediction has all to do with Gypsy.
Mm-hmm.
I think either one of 2 things is going to happen. I either think Gypsy is a bad guy and works for a bidder, and Gypsy lied.
Interesting.
And the Gypsy that we met is not who we think it is. Or Gypsy was coming back to find Vibe and Vibe to his glasses. Wound up on Earth 2, and they got telepathically controlled by Gorilla Grodd.
Yeah.
It's one of the 2 things. I think she's either a bad guy or she got screwed over because he left his glasses poor. Because they made a big deal about those glasses.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? Something's there about those glasses. And I hope that that's what it is because I really want Gypsy to be a good woman.
Cool.
Or a good guy. All right, so let us know down in the comments which of our Flash theories you think is right, and then check out some of the videos that you see on screen, and don't forget to click subscribe. We'll see you next week, Flash friends.